If you're anything like me, you have been taught that renting is a waste of money, or maybe you have gotten that idea and that perception on your own. And I think a lot of people are in their homes. These homes may not be serving them any longer, and they're financially, emotionally, and mentally draining them. People are staying in their homes simply because they're afraid of what it might look like and appear to be when it comes to renting versus owning their own home. And if we're really honest and having a true conversation about that, sometimes the house that once felt like a blessing now starts to feel more of a pressure and a burden to us. This is not because we actually hate home ownership or the property itself. It's not because we are not doing well financially or that we're irresponsible. It is that the reality of life has changed and shifted. Maybe the payment that once was affordable have now the taxes and insurance increase, and that's affecting the monthly payment. Maybe the repairs that are coming up every month are more frequent than not. And maybe people are sitting at home making good money on paper, and that monthly payment is a little bit tighter than they've normally experienced. And so there may be a part of where they're asking themselves, is this home ownership thing for me? And would it be more beneficial to actually rent a property versus owning one or owning this particular property? And that's not a bad question. It's actually a smart one. And in this video, I want to walk you through how to actually think through the decision on whether to sell your home and rent strategically, not based on emotions, but have a sound strategy. And before people start chiming in the comments and saying, renting is not building wealth, it's not equity, I want you to hear me out and hear this all the way through, because I absolutely believe in home ownership. I am a property owner myself, and I believe real estate is one of the, if not the best way to build wealth as a long-term strategy. I also understand that home ownership does not automatically make sense in every season of life. And I also know that home ownership does not make sense for everyone. So sometimes the home that your life seemed to have 5 years ago and it seemed so perfect is no longer a fit for you today. I see this with a lot of financially responsible, of financially savvy homeowners, people who did everything right. They have the good careers. They have the stable income. They bought the home. They're making all of the payments on time. The home has appreciated and the equity is now gone up. So you have some more value there. But there are some things that feel a little different when it comes to owning a home. Instead of assessing if the home still supports your life, people are starting to feel guilty even with the thought of selling. So let's talk through this honestly. And I'm going to share 4 points with you on how to make this assessment. The first point is to understand that home ownership is expensive. I mean, that seems like a logical and a Captain Obvious statement, as my husband would say. And at the same time, it's something that needs to be discussed, because one of the biggest mistakes that people make is assuming that the mortgage payment is the full cost of home ownership, and it's not. The mortgage is usually the starting point. It is the baseline for home ownership. And so I would love to give you an example of what I mean by that. I worked with a homeowner recently, and I'm not going to give you all the exact details, of course. I'm not going to name names or embarrass anybody, but I am going to share that this person is someone who purchased when the interest rates were lower and everything felt comfortable because they had a low interest rate. They purchased at the top of their approval amount, and the first few payments felt comfortable. And then as the property began to appreciate in value, because other homes in the area had sold and sold for more, they were able to make their payments on time until the property taxes increased, the insurance increased, and the maintenance 3 years in started stacking up. So there was nothing huge individually. However, all of these things over time started to feel heavy for this particular homeowner. And first it was, we'll deal with the HVAC later, right? We can work around getting that annual service that goes along with it and put that on the back burner. And then it was, we'll wait to get the landscaping done, right? That's not something that I have to invest in every single month. I'll get out there and cut it every 6 weeks or so. And then the water heater began to have some issues. Before long, they went from enjoying the particular home to now I have to manage this thing, right? It's no longer a place of serenity for them because they're coming home and looking at the expenses that they're putting in. It's the sneak attack. It's this happening over and over on a monthly basis, having some repair that needs to be addressed or something that needs to be managed within the home. And this happens more often than people would like to even discuss. The slow financial drip and drain of the constant maintenance, the rising expenses, the unexpected repairs that are coming up, and feeling like every dollar is going back into this house. And this is where I tell homeowners that the mortgage is simply the minimum that you're going to pay, because home ownership is the total investment of the mortgage payment, the repairs, the taxes, the insurance, and everything that's attached with it. If you're sitting there and you're realizing, wow, this house feels heavier financially, mentally, and emotionally than it ever used to, that does not make you an irresponsible person. It makes you human. And I want you to stay tuned to the end of this video for the strategy to get through this. The second point that I want to make is renting creates the flexibility. This is where people are now avoiding the conversation because sometimes renting creates that flexibility that allows you space to reset. And homeownership sometimes doesn't give you that sense of flexibility because it is a 30-year, 15-year, it is a more permanent fix. And I know this is hard for some people to digest, to say the least, because we've been so conditioned, for a lack of a better word, to know and attach our identity to owning a home. Like when you're a homeowner, you have, of course, the financial value and status that goes along with it, but there's also this perceived status that goes along with it. And people don't really know what it takes to maintain or to acquire and maintain that property. Let's say you sell your home and you walk away with actual equity. Instead of immediately jumping into another purchase because you feel like you should, you decide to rent for 12 months with intention. What does this potentially do for your life? Does it offer you monthly expenses that are reduced? Does it lower your travel and commute to and from work? Is it giving you an opportunity to rebuild your savings? And maybe you begin to rebuild that savings account and that emergency fund instead of draining it. Sometimes people need a season where they're not responsible for the roof or the plumbing or the landscaping or the HOA or any of the increases that go along with the property or any of the unexpected repairs that show up at the worst possible time. I know people hear the word renting and they automatically think that's a step backwards. But I would like to offer you a different perspective. I would like for you to think about it, an opportunity to position yourself to move forward. If you're renting temporarily, it allows you to learn a new area or neighborhood. If you're renting temporarily, this allows you to stabilize your finances. If you're renting temporarily, this allows you to wait for a better time to purchase that ideal home, or maybe allow you the opportunity to avoid making another rush purchase. You get to assess what would be ideal and best for you. When people feel pressure, they often make emotional decisions just to maintain the appearances. And that is an absolutely dangerous financial decision that anyone could ever make. I've seen homeowners sell one home and leave that one stressful situation and turn around and immediately buy another home and still have the same stressful situation occur because they were afraid to rent. They were afraid to pause and have the appearance of unsuccessful. Meanwhile, their stress never went away. They bought another problem. And I really want people to hear me clearly when I say this, because sometimes renting is that set up and allows you to reset financially, mentally, and your overall lifestyle could have as a result a reset. And sometimes that creates a much stronger future for the long haul. I know I'm preaching here to some and I'm hitting a nerve for others. But let me take a moment to say that I am Nayela Allen. I'm an Army veteran and a realtor here in the Nashville area. And one thing that I've learned working with hundreds of homeowners is that a lot of financially responsible people quietly feel the pressure around home ownership, and they make rash decisions as a result of that pressure. Not because they're failures, not because they're irresponsible, but because life has changed faster than their financial plans have. And my goal is never to pressure anyone into making a decision to sell or to make you feel bad about any life choices. My goal is to help homeowners think about the strategy in their move and understand their options completely, protect their overall equity within their home so that they're getting top dollar and getting the most out of the sale of the home, and giving the space to make the decision that supports their ultimate life, the life that they want to live, which brings me to the next point, because people really need to think about, are they choosing these financial decisions due to pride? Don't do that. Sometimes people stay in stressful situations, financially stressful situations, because they're emotionally attached to what the house actually represents. Not because the property is giving all that it needs. It's because they're attached to the meaning of success, achievement, and stability that that house may be providing for them, like this status symbol. Especially if you worked hard to buy your property, especially if you won in a multiple offer situation, especially if you are a first time homeowner within your family, especially if you've used your VA home loan benefit, you have sacrificed for years to get this particular home, and life might have changed a little bit. The house no longer fits your reality, but you still have that attachment. You still feel ashamed, even thinking about the option to rent, the option to sell. And I've seen homeowners carry credit card debt as a result of this, financial stress as a result of this, having constant anxiety around where are they going to make their payments and how are they going to get out of this situation. And they deplete their savings and back themselves in the corner just to maintain a home that no longer fits their lifestyle, hiding behind the idea of my faith is going to carry me out. And honestly, being a faith person myself, the pressure I see keeps people stuck. It keeps them stuck in their current situations. And you don't need to financially struggle just to maintain the appearance of being successful. And I know that that's not a true test of you walking by faith. Sometimes wisdom in this process looks like simplifying your life, removing things that are not meant to be on your plate. Sometimes wisdom looks like reducing the pressure before things become so overwhelming that you don't know where to turn. That's not failure at all. And that's not a lack of faith. That is a true strategy that allows you to make the decisions from a position of strength, which leads me to the next point. The point is, the numbers must make sense. They must make sense for your life and no one else's. They have to make financial sense for you and your family, not your mama's life, not your daddy's life, cousin, auntie, when you're thinking about selling and whether or not it's best to rent. This is not a social decision. The math has to math and it needs to make financial sense for you to make that move. And this is the process I encourage most homeowners, if not all, to walk through. The first thing would be to figure out what you would realistically walk away from. Don't look at the total home value and think, I'll get all that money back. Think about what would it actually look like for you to walk away once commissions are paid, once the closing cost is done, once the repairs in the home to get it sold are complete, once your mortgage is paid off and your moving expenses to your new location are calculated into that, what you would walk away with. The next step is to compare your current monthly costs with the expenses that you would have after your home is actually sold. Would your monthly expenses decrease? Would your debt decrease and be reduced? How would your savings increase once the home is sold and you have moved? How would your overall stress improve throughout this process? You want to take in consideration all these things, and then after you've done that step, the next step that you would want to take is be honest about the goal and the objective of the next chapter of your life. After you've looked at your expenses, you want to make sure that you're looking at what your life would look like in that next chapter. And make sure that you're reaching for and taking the steps necessary to reach that ultimate goal and objective. Is it to recover financially? Is it to actually relocate and find out about a new area? Is it to simplify your life so that you're not having all these stress factors and health concerns? Is it to prepare for retirement, reduce the added pressures that home ownership has provided you? And is it because you just want the sense of equity and get the cash out? Because that all sounds well and good if it helps you to improve your overall life and if it impacts you financially tremendously. If it's setting you up for a better future, then this might be the option for you. The conversation that we need to have more of is what makes sense for your future, for your family's future, not what will people think. So if you are attempting to determine whether selling and renting temporarily for you could improve your financial situation, the first step is understanding your actual numbers. Understand them clearly and build a strategy before making an emotional decision. Point blank, period. If this video has helped you think differently about your situation, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you want more honest conversations around home ownership, around the equity in your home, selling, and financial strategies when it comes to home ownership here in the Nashville area, if you're a veteran and you want to know more about using your VA home loan benefits, then make sure that you subscribe and continue to watch more videos.